All right, pregame thoughts, Padres and the Phillies. Obviously, we know how good the Phillies have been this year. They swept the Padres earlier this year. They're 47 and 24. Oh, and to help matters, at least for them on paper, they get Trey Turner back off of the IL before today's game going into tonight. So that's awesome for us. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. Padres, they have lost seven, right? 7 consecutive road games. Trying to stop that from continuing and moving that to 8. I was listening to Darren Smith earlier today, and maybe it was Marty who asked the question of like, what's more likely, them going 3-3 on this road trip or going 0-6? And I think a lot of fans would say 0-6 based on how they just played against the New York Mets. But I would answer that saying 3-3 because this Padres team, they're a around 500 baseball team. That's who they are, and sometimes they play well against better teams. And I know they got swept by the Phillies earlier this year, and I know they're facing some left-handed pitching this series, so maybe I should say 0-6, but it's again, they're up and down. It's the Padres, so I just think 3-3, that's fitting on a road trip. I'm not saying they're gonna sweep the Phillies. That was just the question that was being asked on the show, I think, in their first segment earlier today. But anyway, Vasquez on the mound against Sanchez. I mean, with this starting pitching matchup, I don't really know how to judge it going in. I think it's two guys that could give you solid outings, and really it's going to be up to the Padres, I feel like, to score runs here. Not 2 runs and win the game that way, but score more than that here in this game. We'll see what happens later in the series when they're facing Ranger Suarez, they're facing Aaron Nola. That may have to be a little bit more of a lesser run scored game, but good pitching on both sides, and the Padres find a way to win. Today, they might have to score some more runs here. But we know that the Phillies, they have a good lineup on their side. Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Stott, Castellanos, Marsh, Dahl, former Padre. And then Marchand, he is the catcher. I might have just botched that name, but apologies. I'm not familiar with that name. And then for us, Arias, Tatis, Profar, Machado, Solano, Cronenworth, Kim, Merrill, Higashioka. Higgy has taken over as the starting catcher. I think that's been pretty obvious. Campy has really struggled offensively. He's not throwing runners out either, so it's not like he has that going. So, it's not like Higgy's much better. He's not, the best offensive catcher in baseball, but who should be playing more right now just based off performance? It's Higgy right now. Bullpen, it's in good shape, obviously, because they got swept. So now, Estrada, that's like the question mark, right? Because he hasn't been pitching too great these last couple days, but I don't know. I don't know if he will be pitching last couple games, I should say. I don't know if he is going to be pitching today or even be available today after his performance yesterday against the Mets. But Suarez is good, and the other high leverage relievers, if there's even a group of those, because there has been some inconsistency there, those guys should be available today behind Randy Vasquez. And so that's really what I have for pregame thoughts today. Another topic that I wanted to hit on was the All-Star game voting, and the first ballot came out. I think there's a couple ballot updates, and then there's, okay, who's that next level, that the next stage that you get to, because there's the initial All-Star game voting, which is what we're in, and this is the first ballot update that happened this morning. Then there's another stage where they narrow it down to, I believe, the top 2 vote getters, because I'm looking at the graphic here with all the votes, and the ones in gray, highlighted in gray, I believe are the ones that would advance to that next stage. So for catchers, first baseman, second baseman, third baseman, shortstops, DH, those top 2 in those positions, they advance, and then they face off against one another. The fans only have the opportunity to vote one of those 2 guys, and then the winner of that advances. And then the outfielders, it's top 6, but it's not like center field, left field, right field. It's just 6 outfielders. And maybe that's what they should do for middle infield as well, because I feel like there's years where let's just vote 2 shortstops instead of having a second baseman. But if you're a Padre fan, at second base, we have Luis Ariz, who, by the way, leads second base, National League second baseman in voting. Tatis, by the way, Profar, they would be starting in the All-Star game as of now. Profar, he is number 1 in outfield voting. Not a million votes, but over 900,000. He's at 900,541. He's ahead of Yelich, who's at over 821,000. He's ahead of Tatis, who is over 798,000. And then 456 is Teoscar Hernandez, Brandon Marsh, and Nick Castellanos. So you look at those names and it's like, man, yeah, the outfield group is not very strong. Not Profar, sorry. Arise at second base. He's first. He's at 613,068 votes. He is just ahead of Ketel Marte, who's at almost 609,000 votes. Then it's Bryson Stott, Ozzy Albies. Then it falls off after that. Now, third base. Well, hang on. Before I get to third, with second base with Arise, I think he should be starting at second base in the All Star game. There's not any second baseman out there right now that sticks out to me. And so I think that rewarding someone that has a high average like Arise does, I think you reward him and put him there at second base. I think that's good. It's not like there's a second baseman again out there that just blows everyone out of the water and is the leading NL MVP guy or something like that. So hopefully Arise can start. That would be cool to see. There's some fans that are like, Ben, I don't care. And that's totally okay. At the end of the day, yeah, it's the All-Star game. It doesn't matter, but it is still something to talk about, and it's meaningful for these players. At third base, Alec Boehm is the leading vote getter at over 1 million votes. I'm glad that he's the leading vote getter, to be honest, and it's a blowout. Second place is Manny, who is at 267,063 votes. So that's a big gap. And then Joey or Joey Ortiz is third. Muncy is fourth. McMahon is fifth. Arenado's down at 6. Riley's down at 7. Matt Chapman's down at 8. That just shows like NL third base, it's not very close either. And Alec Boehm, yeah, he should be starting at third base just based if we're basing it off of the first half of the season. And I know that sometimes it doesn't feel right to be rewarding the starting person in the All-Star game just because they had a good first half of the season, because that's really what it is. You're not judging the entire season, and maybe we should give it to a star player. I think that's more justifiable if that star player is performing well, and Manny Machado is not. Manny Machado placing second here, and he's my guy. Like, he's on the Padres. I'm going to support Padres, but I want to tell it like it is. And we know that Manny has not been playing well this year. He has not had a good season. So for him to be placed second, I mean, it's not based on the year that he's had. It's based on the name Manny, right? Maybe there's some that voted for Manny. And it's like, or maybe that's all Padres fans that voted for Manny. And they just went all Padre ballot like I did that first day that the ballot was up, because I always do that because I'm a Padres fan. And I'm gonna at least, I don't care, like, even if it was last year or a couple years ago, I think it was Austin Nola. I know, random stray on Austin Nola. Sorry, dude. But even then, I voted for him. And if it was Higgy this year, I'd vote for him. Like, I don't care who it is. Those are my guys. Ultimately, I want these guys to do well. And so maybe that's a lot of Padres fans that just voted for Manny. But if it was others, it was Alec Boehm. I'm not too familiar with Alec Boehm. I'm talking from like a casual fan maybe that doesn't really follow the Phillies too much. I'm not a big Alec Boehm guy. I don't really know who that is, so I'm going to go with the guy that is one of the stars that I've heard of before, and that's Manny. I'd rather see Manny playing in the All-Star game than some guy named Alec Boehm. Maybe that's the viewpoint of some, but Manny doesn't deserve it this year. If we're basing it off of this year's results and the last couple of years, it's been disappointing for Manny these last couple of years. Um, Checking here, any Padres. So Campy is seventh with catchers. He's getting blown out, though. William Contreras is first. I know I don't have it up on the screen. Apologies, but I'm just reading from the graphic. First base, Jake Cronenworth is fifth. Harper is first with over 1 million votes. So it's a blowout. Cronenworth is almost at 140,000 in this first ballot update. Shortstop Ha-Sung Kim is sixth. Not close. Mookie Betts, who got hurt, by the way, which sucks seeing that. He is at over 1 million votes at short. Trey Turner is second. But yeah, Kim at sixth. He's at over 114,000, so not close there. DH, Donovan Solano is 5th at over 101,000, but Shohei's obviously leading that with over 1,000,000 votes. And then, as we talked about with outfielders, Profar's first, Tatis is third, and then Merrill, he's down there at 18th, which is cool. Merrill's, I'm not saying he deserves to be an all-star or starting in the all-star game, but he's had a good year, and I'm happy that he is the Padres center fielder. No doubt about that. The way that he goes about his business and just the year that he's had. There's been some downs, but there's been a lot of good moments from him, impressive moments from him in his rookie season transitioning to center field. So good for him. But yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to seeing Profar and Tatis. Definitely Profar and Tatis. I mean, based on the other NL outfielders, I wouldn't be shocked to see Tatis get that starting nod from the fans, and partly because, like, he's the biggest name on this list, right? I'm seeing Yelich, Bellinger, Hayward, but that's, like, way past his prime. In terms of faces of baseball, there's Corbin Carroll down there at 19th. He has not had a good year, though. I mean, it's Tatis. So if we want the stars in the game, there's been stars that have moved to the infield, obviously. And I think this is what people are going to bring up, the two main examples, Mookie and Harper. But I mean, it is what it is. Acuna is hurt. So that's going to help someone like Tatis. And Profar deserves it, no doubt about that. And I guess based on when you compare it to other NL outfielders, maybe Tatis does. I haven't totally dove into the numbers on that, but if Tatis can play well, then it won't just be because of the name, but it will be because he deserves it. But no, Profar, I will be super happy for him being able to start, which it definitely seems like he will be getting to start in the All-Star game. He totally deserves it. And just this story, right? He's with the Rangers, top prospect, all that, right? Has he been to an All-Star game? I don't think he has been. I know it would be his first All-Star game start because he got blocked, right? He had to deal with injuries in Texas. He got blocked when, like, Rougned Odor came up. There were injuries that allowed him to come back and play. Then he went to the A's, and he hasn't no All-Star appearances, by the way, to answer that question that I had. Um, Goes to the A's and still, like, it just never reached that potential. And this year, he is getting to that. And so that's really cool. And Profar, it just seems like he's a really good dude. And to have his son, to be able to have that experience there, I'd be so happy for him.